My name is Stephen Holmes. I'm a Manxman and I have a story to tell. My story is about my children, my Manx children. That means they were born in the Isle of Man. Normally, I could be in contempt of court by telling this story because it involves what is laughingly called court orders, made in what is to be described as a court of justice. But the court orders were put in the public domain by a judge who had made them, or by other judges, even though they had in chambers written on them. I'm going back 9 years now, to 2004, when my children were just 8 and 5. I was in a courtroom in Douglas in the Isle of Man, where the judge had made what he called a declaratory order. The judge declared that I could only enjoy indirect dealings with my own children in the Isle of Man because a judge in England had said so. The so-called order was issued by the Family Division of the Isle of Man High Court, but the judge who made the declaration ordered that the declaration be sent to the Isle of Man Police in Douglas and Port Erin, near to where the children lived, and to the head teacher at the primary school where the children were being educated in the Isle of Man. That declaration was issued on the 5th of November 2004. Then, 3 years later, another court in the Isle of Man judged that the declaration was unlawful and quashed it. But the damage had been done in 2004 because the Manx mother of the Manx children was permitted to prevent the children having any kind of meaningful family life with their Manx father, me. Did I say I'm a Manxman? I am. I was born in Douglas. The mother of my children was born in Douglas, and both our children were born in Douglas, Isle of Man. For a while, I had it in for this Manx judge, this Deemster as he is called, because he destroyed my family life. He issued a false instrument and sent it to the police. And then I had it in for the appeal court in the Isle of Man because the two judges made no criticism of the rights-abusing charlatan who was Deputy Deemster from 2002 to January 2008, almost exactly 52 months. 3 years later, at the start of 2012, I started looking at our ancient Manx laws from the 15th century, and I found that Section 45 of the 1422 Act of Tynwald is headed "Partiality and Misgovernment Prohibited." In fact, most of the text of the Deemster's oath is based on this section of this ancient act. But on the 2nd of April 2013, two judges in the Isle of Man stated that previously it had been observed, although no fair criticism can be made of the Deputy Deemster for him accepting what he believed to be correct, namely that the orders had been properly registered, given that there was in fact no proper registration, there was no legitimate basis upon which the Deputy Deemster could have made the order which he did. What? Given that there was no registration, there was no legal basis upon which the Deputy Deemster could have made the order which he did, but no fair criticism can be made of a charlatan who did not execute the laws of this isle at all. Instead, he acted with outlawry. Criticism of such a person is essential, whether he is a judge, a politician, civil servant, or the man on the Onken bus. Making no fair criticism was biased and partial, and is prohibited by our ancient law, as well as being contrary to Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights, a convention that has been binding in the Isle of Man since 1953. So the story I have to tell about my children is that the Deputy Deemster encouraged the abuse of their rights by issuing a false instrument in November 2004 and sending it to the police and to a head teacher. And then his colleagues made no criticism of the child rights abusing charlatan who had abused the rights of children for 3 years. The story I tell is that the Deemsters in the Isle of Man would rather abuse fundamental rights than admit they did not know the law. Deputy Deemster Andrew Kalashnikov Williamson abused Manx children for 3 years, and no criticism was made of his actions, although they were without legitimacy. And this is all true. That is all I have to say. My name is Stephen Holmes, and I am a Manxman.